Welcome to another episode of What It Takes. This is Costadinos as always, and I'm super excited for this fourth episode. We are moving, we are consistent. So the milestone is to reach 21 episodes so we can be officially at the top 1% podcasts. And for this episode, we have something super exciting that I want to share and talk more about, which is decision making. I'm going to talk about how decision making has helped me and the importance of it in business and why you should make fast decisions and calculated decisions, right? Fully informed decisions. It's something that I don't see many people talk about, and those who actually talk about it, I feel they lack certain aspects. And I know it sounds, how to say this, a little bit arrogant, but it's something that I've personally experienced also from my time in the Air Force in like real situations. Okay. So to give you a quick overview of what we're going to go over today, firstly, I'm going to share with you a story from my time in the Air Force that this is the time that I started thinking about that and the importance of decision making and how fast actually you have to act. Then I'm going to share with you a framework you can use today to make calculated decisions. And this framework was created by an Air Force pilot. Then we're going to translate that into practical tips, how you can use it today. Okay. And I'm going to share some examples, some personal wins and mistakes that I've made. And in the end, if you stick till the end, I'm going to share with you another pro tip you can also use today. Okay. So there are a lot of tactical things in this episode and it will really be worth it. So stay tuned and let's dive in. To start this episode, I want to share with you a quick story and how I started thinking about decision making. So I won't go into much detail, but I'll give you the quick gist of it. Okay. So it all started with a time that I had to decide basically. Okay. So usually, I didn't stay long in the Air Force. So I don't pretend to be some experienced pilot or whatever. So I stayed for 8 years, including the years in the academy. But there was a time where, we were flying quite a lot and most of these flights were with an instructor. Now, there are about like a dozen of flights that you fly solo, part of training. So there are, cadets that had, let's say, special situations or emergencies and stuff like that, that kind of, push you to grow inevitably. And I was one of them. So that was start. So basically, long story short, I had a situation where I had to decide fast. And the way it pushes you to grow is really like no other. I remember having like an emergency during takeoff. And for an instant, I was like, shoot, like, I got to figure it out now. And like the moment you realize that it's only you and now no one is going to save you, that's the time that you really grow up. It sounds funny, but at that time it really isn't. And I know a lot of people, a lot of gurus, a lot of like motivational videos talk about, nobody's going to save you and like got to figure it out. But I experienced this like 100% because when you're alone flying, there's really nobody there, right? So for a split of a second, you think, what am I going to do now? And the next one, you actually think, okay, it's just me. I will figure it out. There's no way around it. Okay. And that moment really made me like grow up, right? Take ownership and learn how to make decisions faster. When I came back from this, I didn't feel the same person, right? So that's like the quick story. Again, I don't want to give like too many details because I think we'll miss the point. So with that, I want to share with you a framework that I learned from not from the Air Force, but like I said before, this framework was created by an Air Force pilot. His name is John Boyd, and that was, I think, during the Vietnam War. And basically, he was an American pilot, right? So to win, having inferior aircraft, they had to find a way to win, right? So the way they did it is actually by making faster decisions. So the framework goes like this. It's called the OODA loop, right? It's one of my favorite topics when it comes to productivity things, right? And it's about how to make faster decisions. It's 4 letters, O, O, D, and A, OODA loop, okay? And it stands for observe, orient, decide, act. You can look it up. It's there. It's online. You can find it everywhere, okay? So here's how that is broken down. So to make a decision, like making decisions seems like very vague, right? What does it actually mean? Like, how can I make a decision fast? Like, what are the components of it? And I'm telling you this right now. The first component is observe. You got to see the data. You got to see where you are. You got to see the situation. You got to assess the situation. In the Air Force, we called it SA, situational awareness. So you got to know where you're at. Have data, right? And you can't imagine how many times I've spoken with entrepreneurs, business owners. I'm talking about 7-figure companies, and they don't have data. They make decisions based on gut feeling and how they feel about it. It's crazy, right? How can you make a decision for your entire company based on how you feel about it, based on gut feeling, right? Having no data. So you don't observe what's going on. You don't see what's working and what doesn't. So that's the first step, observe. Then you got orient. Orient means, okay, I see the data, I know the situation, right? Where am I going? Because it doesn't matter to make progress. You got to make progress in the right direction. If you are making progress in the wrong direction, you're going the opposite way. So that matters a lot. Again, observe, you got to look at the data, you got to see where you're at, you got to see what's working, what's not working. Next, you got to see where you're going. So the thing that you're going to do, does it help you get closer to your goal or not? We talked about this in the last episode as well, I think, right? First step, observe. Next step is orient. Where am I going? The next step is decide. This is the point where, okay, I see the data, I know where I'm at, I know where I'm going, now I have to make a decision. To make a decision, you have to make a fully informed decision. To do that, you have to have data. That's why the step observe is important. You can't make a decision unless you have data. Otherwise, you're just making wrong decisions and it doesn't help anybody. Okay? So decide. And then after you make a decision, it doesn't end there. You have to take action, which is act, the last step. Act, right? And that's super important. So if you think about it, people get stuck in all these 4 steps. People get stuck because they observe. They're like, oh, I got to find the perfect idea. I got to prepare. I got to learn how to, do editing. I have to buy this expensive equipment before I start my YouTube channel. I have to know everything before I make any mistake, before I start this business. Like, you see this all the time. People get stuck in all the stages. I don't know which one is the most viral. Probably the first one, but I don't know. Like every step, people get stuck, right? So next one, orient. There is no clarity. Where are you going? What's the goal, right? I believe this is like the least like common for people to get stuck in this stage because most people don't even start, right? So decide is like, okay, these are the people that talk about their goals, talk about like they want to start this, they want to start that, like, and they've decided, I want to do this, right? This is what I'm going to do. Okay, like make a decision. How are you going to do it? Is it going to be through like a business? Do you want to create like a channel? Do you want to make build an audience? Do you want to grow an email list? Like, what do you want to do? Make a decision. Decide, right? Nothing is going to change unless you decide. Now, here's the even more interesting thing, right? Let's say you make a decision. I'm going to start a business. Okay, when? Like, start. You got to start. Nothing will change unless you do something, right? So you look at where you are, you have data, right? You know where you're going, you know your goals, you're going to make X money, or you're going to reach that level, you're going to have so many, like 50 employees, whatever it is. You know the next steps, you make a decision, act. Are you the kind of person who says, oh, I'll do it by, end of the year? That's like the time you give yourself, that's the time it's going to take you. So think about, if you notice, right? Those who are further ahead, they are there because they make faster decisions. That's it, period. The framework that I share with you is the best way to outgrow anybody. Here's the trick. The one who runs the loop faster wins, period. It's a loop, right? Observe, orient, decide, act, observe again. And it goes on and on. The one who runs the loop faster wins. And that's how you can outgrow someone who is doing it for longer than you. It's simple as that. When I started my business, there were other people that were doing it for longer than me, and I outgrew them because I was acting faster than them. And guess what? People started after me and they outgrew me because they were making faster decisions than me. And I was upset. I was like, this person just came up. How are they making more money than me? How do they have more clients than me? That's how it works, right? The faster you make decisions, the faster you will grow. If you don't make decisions, you will fall, right? So people get stuck in all 4 stages. So the goal basically to go into the next step, what's the goal? Like, how can you apply it? How is that translated into real action? Okay, this all sounds cool, makes sense. But what can I do, right? So the goal is to like minimize the time it takes you to go from one stage to another. Alex Ramosa says about, you have to shorten the gap between deciding and action. I think this is like, there's information that is missing in this statement. Obviously, who am I to say that Hormozi is lacking information or whatever, is like, this is incomplete. But if you know who I'm talking about, probably you know who I'm talking about. He tends to oversimplify things, and it's great, right? I like the simplicity of everything. But in this, if you just say, okay, it's only deciding and action, what if you make the wrong decisions? Do you have data? How do you know what's gonna be the next step? So if you see the 4 stages, you have observe, orient. So you have to minimize the time it takes you. The moment you realize what's going on, the moment you are past the observe stage, you have to get to the next stage as fast as possible, which is orient. Okay, where am I going? As fast as possible. And then do the same with decide. You have to shorten that gap. You have to bridge the gap as fast as possible. And of course, action. You have to do things, right? You have to do things so you can get data. Because when you're doing things, guess what? Now you have data. You are gonna fail. You will get feedback from what worked, what didn't work. And you're gonna use that to observe yet again. Okay, so that's how you can apply it today. You have to bridge the gap and make fast decisions. Decide, act as fast as possible. Don't overthink it. Here's like a pro tip here. The more time you give yourself to think about something, the less likely it is for you to act on it. Because our minds are created to keep us in our comfort zone. It's normal. It works like that. Because if you delay taking action, if you are stuck in the deciding, right, then your mind will start thinking about, what if this happens? What if that happens? Let me do this first. Let me have this prepared. Let me do that. So you analyze everything. You try to organize everything. You try to have the perfect situation before you start. It doesn't work this way. And again, that goes for very, very early stage entrepreneurs, those who start and those who are in it for years. Again, I've had clients that are 7-figure business owners. They have huge businesses and they still don't do this right. Imagine if you were doing it right. Making decisions is the best thing. You will be able to use it for the entire entrepreneurship journey, right? Now, to give you some examples, start by making it shorter. Start by shortening the gap of action. And what I mean by that is, instead of saying, this is my goal for the year, try breaking it up even more and say, it's better to say, that's the goal for the quarter. Now, even better, you can say, that's what I'm going to do until end of month. That's what I'm going to do until end of week, right? So it goes on and on. The shorter the deadline, the better, right? People who say, I'll do it until end of day, right? You have, for example, a mentor, they say, do this, right? Start a YouTube channel, for example, grow an audience. If you do this by end of year, maybe you start before the end of the year. But if you say, okay, I'll do today. I'll start. I'll take imperfect action. Because the first videos, either way, nobody will watch. Nobody will watch. I mean, as I'm saying it, I'm uploading videos on YouTube and I literally get 0 views. It's so funny. I make a video, I'm like, this is the best. I put a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of time, this editing, the topic, the value, the call to action, everything is there. The thumbnail is perfect. This is gonna go, this will be good. I post it, 0 views. That's the game, right? You gotta be consistent. It's part of it. But this is actually good, because imagine starting with a video that is not very good and you get views and people will not like you and then they will not want to watch again. So that gives you the opportunity to get better while posting videos, right? So a lot of examples in this, the faster you act, the better, and it doesn't get easier, right? You have to make a decision faster, period, okay? Now, to share with you some personal ways and how it helped me make fast decisions, it helped me when I started the business. I could wait. I remember it was during COVID. I had the time to just kind of sit back and spend the time however I wanted and start later. That thing is always something that people say, I will start later. Okay, I'll start, next week, next year, whatever it is. And I jumped right in. I said, you know what? I'll make the decision, I'll invest. And I didn't think about it twice. So starting a business, investing, right, in myself, in mentors, helped me a ton. Quitting my job was also a huge decision. It's the decision I'm most proud of, right? Because I looked at the data, I applied this exactly in this scenario, right? Because I said, okay, what are the data? What's the worst case? What's the best case scenario? Now, I won't walk you through it, like my decision-making process for how I decided to quit, because that's probably for another episode. But the point is that for huge decisions that I've made in my life, I use the same framework. Okay. So I look at data. I say, what's the best case? What's the worst case scenario? Where am I going? Does it serve me? So if I quit, for example, my job, having in mind my end goal, which is in business and, growing the business, building a big business, that's the orientation. Where am I going? So staying there first didn't serve me, right? Decide, okay, I decide to quit. How fast will you act after you decide that, right? Everything comes into play. So now I've also made mistakes. Not deciding. Because here's the thing, not making a decision is also a decision. I'm going to say that again. Not making a decision is also a decision. If you don't decide, somebody else will for you. The universe, the world, whatever. If you delay starting a business, somebody else will and become your competitor before you even get in business. If you delay hiring that person, maybe somebody else leaves as well. If you delay investing, whatever, thousands of examples. So my mistake that I made recently was last year. That cost me a lot. And the mistake was that I didn't decide which direction to take. So for me, it was about not deciding exactly, but it was the orient stage. I didn't know where I was going. I got lost. I had two directions to take and I didn't pick either. I said, either I'm going to go with coaching or I'm going to create an agency, a done-for-you agency to create systems for business owners. And guess what? I did none of them. I was on the limbo, like 1 month doing the coaching thing, the other month doing the other thing. And I did this for an entire year. And that pushed me a few steps back, but I learned from it. Right? So now I have new data. So back to observe, orient, where am I going? It's crystal clear. Decide, act, right? So it's inevitable you will have wins and losses. That's how it works. But guess what? When you have a failure, when you lose something, you learn. I know it sounds, very common. Everybody says that, but you will never experience that unless you do it. Okay. Now, as I'm wrapping this up, I want to also share a pro tip, as I promised, because you stick till the end, and I love you for it, which is the 2-minute rule. It connects with the episode topic, which is if you have to do something which takes less than 2 minutes, do it right away. Usually people like to schedule things, and I'm the best at this, right? I like scheduling everything. I like to have everything on my calendar. I like to have a structure. I like to plan everything, right? But when it comes to like a small task, if it's, say, I have to call somebody or I have to make a phone call, right? If I schedule that, it will take me longer to actually schedule that and add one more thing on my list than actually doing it on the spot. So the 2-minute rule says basically that if something takes you less than 2 minutes, do it right away. Do it the moment it is defined. Simple as that. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some value. If you did, give it a good rating, 5 stars. Much appreciated. On Spotify, if you're watching it on YouTube, give it a like, subscribe, share it, and it will help me keep doing it, right? And so I can get more than 0 views. Okay, so appreciate you. Hope you got value, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Have a good one.